Welcome to your ninth grade math adventure. In this video, we are going to look over function notation, and also I'm going to try and show you how to go about taking notes from a video. In this first lesson of the year, I have two goals. The first is to teach you about function notation and teach you about evaluating functions. The second goal, though, arguably just as important, is to make sure that you know how to use your packet to its fullest advantage and how to really get the information you need out of these lessons. So if you're looking at your packet, you should see something like this. It is on page 3. When you look at this over here on the margin, you have an area where we tell you to write your questions. That means as you're going through the video, if I say something or whoever's making the video says something that doesn't make any sense, then make a note right there. Write your question. Highlight what it is we said that didn't make sense, and then write down what it is you didn't understand, so that when you're with your teacher, when you're back in class the next day, or when they're finished helping the student they're helping, you can call us over and we can help clarify whatever it was that didn't make sense. Also, on most lessons, you'll see a little section here that's your vocabulary section. At the end of your packet, there's a glossary. You should find a definition to most, if not all, of this vocabulary there. So if we use a word that you don't understand, you can look it up. You're also on a computer, so, Google if you need to. The thing about Google is sometimes it'll give you a more in-depth answer than you really need. So I would check the glossary first. We've got learning targets that tell you kind of what you can expect to learn in this, and then your notes. This little banner tells you that it's time to start the first video of lesson 1-1. So that's what you're doing right now. So as you go through, this says a blank, and underneath here we have a function. So that means you should pause right now and write the word function in your notes. A function is a special type of relationship between two sets of numbers that make it possible for us to know what value will be produced when we have a specific value plugged in. It's kind of like a machine that you plug numbers into. Typically, we call those inputs our x values, and it spits out some f of x. Sometimes you'll see that referred to as y, sometimes f of x. In past math courses, we've mostly dealt with x's and y's, but in Algebra 1, we tend to kind of be fluid between using y and using f of x, which is why we wanted to start off very first thing of the year explaining what that f of x is. So when we write equations for functions, we use this thing called function notation. So go ahead and pause your video and get that filled in. You'll have a blank there. Typically, when we write equations, we write them where y is a function of x. In function notation, the only thing that changes is we're writing f of x as a function of x. So literally, you're just switching f of x for y, which is what this sentence says. Really, the only difference is that we're using f of x instead of y. So if you have an equation that says y equals 5x plus 9, and we were asking you to graph it, or whatever we might ask you to do with it, in function notation, it would simply look like this. Why we need another notation? I don't know, but it's just the way it is. So in this case, the f is your generic name for the function. Sometimes you'll see something other than f there, like a g of x or an h of x. It's just the name of the function, function f. And then this whole symbol is considered your y, or your output, and then this is your little x, or your input value. So you might be asked to evaluate a function using a specific input or a specific x. So it might look like this. Evaluate f of x equals 7x for f of 2. So here's how you would do that problem. You would simply go in, and you'll notice here, instead of an x, there's a 2, which means we want to know what's the value of this when x is 2. So you're going to replace that x everywhere you see it with a 2. So all I did is, instead of writing x here, I wrote 2, because that's what the problem told me to do. And instead of writing x here, I wrote 2, because x is now equal to 2. So what I get then is f of 2 equals, well, 7 times 2 is 14. So that's my answer. You'll notice that I didn't just delete that x and replace it with a 2, because then I would have had something that looked like this, and I would think that's 72. Remember that this means 7 times x, so you've got to put something there. I usually use parentheses to let me know that I'm multiplying 7 times that 2. All right, what you're going to do now is I'm finished instructing you on how to do that. What I want you to do now is take some time to attempt these U-Try videos, and then we'll show you in class how to find the solutions to those once you've tried them on your own.